Hi, everyone. Like I mentioned, a couple of you just showed up. This is the first webinar in our ECLYPSE Building Intelligence webinar series, how to sell the ECLYPSE Building Intelligence benefits. Presenting today, we have Ryan Sen. Ryan, you want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Ryan Sen, Vice President of International Sales here at Distech Controls. 17 years with the organization and extremely excited to be part of today's session.
And Chris Finson, Product Line Manager for the ECLYPSE software, which includes ECLYPSE Building Intelligence and our other software products at Distech. Give a quick agenda here. First, we'll do our introduction, which we've just done, and I'll talk a little bit more about the webinar series as a whole in a moment here. And then we're going to do a section on what ECLYPSE Building Intelligence is and why we built it, how to differentiate your offering with ECLYPSE Building Intelligence, the ECLYPSE Building Intelligence development plan, and what we're going to see next, and then the next steps and upcoming webinars once again. So as I mentioned, this is the first webinar in our webinar series, Sell the Benefits of ECLYPSE Building Intelligence. This is more of a business-oriented session. As we move through the series, we have more and more technical-oriented sessions, starting with the getting started with ECLYPSE Building Intelligence, which is a very basic overview of the interface. We'll do some live demonstration of how to use ECLYPSE Building Intelligence. The next session, Create Intuitive Building Management Interfaces, will be based around the features for the user interface for Building Intelligence, including dashboards and Designer. Then the next session, Unleash the Possibilities with ECLYPSE Building Intelligence Developer Tools, be focused around the new API and MQTT. Again, a very technical session. And the last session on understanding the ECLYPSE Building Intelligence integration capabilities through use cases, be focused on even more developer functions, and as well as our digital partner program and some of the different applications we've done with the ECLYPSE Building Intelligence, the Apex, and some of our developer partners. So what is ECLYPSE Building Intelligence and why did we build it? So there's a couple different market drivers that drove us to build Building Intelligence, and to talk a little bit about that, I'm going to pass it back to Ryan.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. So the one thing that these last few years have truly proven to us is that we absolutely live in a consistently changing environment, with influences from both prior and post-pandemic life now shaping all aspects of our day-to-day life. We've seen a significant increase in energy prices, coupled with the recent extreme weather events in North America and Europe and other parts of the world. All of this to remind us of the need to reduce our energy consumption and carbon emissions, in addition to conforming to legislative requirements associated with pressures surrounding ESG reporting. At the same time, today, we have demands from building occupants for greater flexibility, connectivity, and outcomes for well-being, as well as a richer occupant experience. All of these factors have garnered the attention of company directors, owners, and managers, and more importantly, the need for solutions. ECLYPSE Building Intelligence has been developed to support the reality of intelligent buildings. An intelligent building being, firstly, a sustainable building, one that's focused on maintaining occupant comfort, optimizing energy consumption, and adapting to changing building use. Secondly, a connected building, one that allows for sending and receiving of data of all kinds of different sources, be it cloud or edge, and without any barriers. And lastly, an autonomous building, one that operates without the need for human supervision. Statistics show that 94% of C-suite executives rate skilled labor shortages as the top barrier for growth for their businesses. A report by Korn Ferry estimates that approximately $8.5 trillion will be lost in revenue by 2030 due to the global shortage of nearly 85 million skilled workers. With the release of ECLYPSE Building Intelligence, we're aiming to solve real-world problems by creating value for our partners through greater efficiency during deployment, increasing the services that our SIs can provide, as well as SI customer retention. B, by providing the right solutions for verticals, such as room occupancy displays for hotels, pressurization solutions for operating theaters, or even wireless solutions for the renovation market. And C, an ecosystem of interoperability, providing secure solutions and using the latest IoT, connected, and cloud technology solutions for developers as well as our digital partners. Remember, folks, people spend 90% of their lives in buildings, and buildings represent 40% of the global energy consumption. Improving efficiencies in the deployment, operation, maintenance, and data exchange of BMS and its associated plant room will assuredly help in achieving our emission reduction goals. Several studies show that many recent technological breakthroughs will have an everlasting impact on commercial real estate. Technology has a key role in this environmental and digital transition of buildings towards more services and connectivity. Together, as providers of solutions and services for smart buildings, we must continue to support this evolution. The story is already well underway, and the market is excited about this because it remains a key driving force in terms of innovation. And we, as Distech Controls, want to continue the deployment of innovative solutions in order to ensure that we win together in the future as trusted partners. These new requirements, which are generally outside the traditional field of building management systems, requires collaborative solutions between the different players in the world of OT, operational technology, IT, information technology, IoT, Internet of Things, and AI, artificial intelligence. The Distech Controls Digital Partner Program was set up to create a network of experts who share the same values of openness and innovation to bring more value to our customers. If you've not explored the Digital Partner Program, I urge you to, as it's an invaluable resource to help bridge or connect the dots between the OT, IT, IoT, and AI partners. And so, without any further ado, we'd like to formally introduce ECLYPSE Building Intelligence. And essentially, there's two key silos that Chris will be talking about. A, of course, ECLYPSE Building Intelligence as software for buildings, but B, more importantly, a platform for true digital transformation. So without any further ado, Chris, I'll let you take over.
Thanks, Ryan. And one thing that I didn't mention at the beginning of the presentation, I want to encourage everyone that has questions throughout to make sure they pop the questions into the queue, and we'll have plenty of time at the end to answer questions. So feel free to start asking your questions as soon as something comes up. When we talk about ECLYPSE Building Intelligence, I really like to break it down into three key functional buckets. So the first, the three buckets being control, connect, and supervise. The first, control, being what we're used to with typical BMS controllers. You know, running a piece of equipment, running a plant, controlling the I/O, and running the application. The next functional bucket here is connect, or connectivity. So there we think about some of the BMS protocols we're familiar with, like BACnet or Modbus, but also the more IT, IoT protocols like MQTT, IoT Hub, and others that we're continuing to develop on. And then supervision is the functions that supervise either large systems or whole buildings or fleets of buildings, doing things like aggregating data, trending, alarming, typical BMS supervisory functionality. ECLYPSE Building Intelligence includes elements of each of these three pillars. If we, through that lens, look at the roadmap for ECLYPSE, we started, with a basic controller platform in 2014. But at the time, it was a revolutionary in that it was the first full IP-based BMS control line, which had a BACnet AP and a RESTful API. And now in 2022, moving into 2023, we've started the next generation of ECLYPSE, a new engine to power existing and our future controllers that we release. And starting with the Apex, really focusing on that connectivity between the IT and OT. We'll talk about that more as we move through the presentation. And then as we move into the future with building intelligence, we want to be able to add more and more of that functionality into the supervisory functions, more analytics, more management of multiple devices as we extend the platform to the full line of ECLYPSE controllers, and then onto PC and cloud-based platforms so we can manage and supervise not just buildings, but portfolios. Next, we'll take a deep dive in some of the key features of Eclipse Building Intelligence, how you can differentiate in your marketplace, but also how these features are different from Eclipse Generation 1. So the 5 main feature sets I'm going to highlight. 1 is the site app. 2 is going to be the dashboards and designer. Then our new connector framework, and the Building Intelligence API, or the API v2, and the containerization platform. And then just to give an insight into the new OS, the modular architecture of the software that really makes all of the other features possible. So our Sites app is the first generation of our digital twin. It allows you to take data, traditional BMS data, whether or IoT data, maybe from that you're pulling in through one of your Docker containers, and take that and organize it into an actual building model. And today we support buildings, floors, spaces, equipment, and points, and it provides a place to do navigation for your user interface, as well as relativization for your typical equipment graphics. And just like everything else in the Building Intelligence framework, this is all supported. The Sites app is all supported just by the API, just like BACnet was in Eclipse 1. With the new dashboarding tool, it's a native dashboard tool that's built into Eclipse Building Intelligence. It's made to be responsive out of the box. We knew that while Eclipse Designer is very powerful, doing some of the layouts can be difficult, making responsive dashboards or moving things around. So the dashboard in Eclipse Building Intelligence really simplifies all that with cards and tiles and drag and drop layout. It can be relativized, like I mentioned, to the site tree, to the building data model that you create, and it works seamlessly with the Eclipse Designer. The Eclipse Designer is the next generation of our Envision software. We made a bunch of improvements based on user feedback, improved library management, a new toolbar, and other optimizations to make building equipment graphics and other graphical elements faster and easier than they were before. And like I said, it's a seamless integration where you can take full designer pages or individual symbols that you've created already for Envision, or new ones you'd like to create directly into Eclipse dashboards. The connector framework is the new way to manage connectivity to different data sets in the building. And they could be traditional sets like that you're used to, like BACnet or Modbus, but also the Building Intelligence software allows us from the user interface to manage the extension and I/O modules to see Modbus data, the weather data, MQTT, and as well as our IoT and IoT Edge connections. The software now, where some of these things used to only be accessible through ECGFX program in Eclipse 1, and Eclipse Building Intelligence, all this is managed through the web interface. We've continued to support a RESTful API with Building Intelligence. The Eclipse Building Intelligence API v1, we have a well-documented wiki. Many are familiar with API v1. Most of the system parameters are accessible, as well as backtip values, and it supports basic authentication. Moving into Eclipse Building Intelligence, one of the unique things about this new software is every element that's in Eclipse Building Intelligence, every parameter is automatically accessible via the API. So the API automatically gives you access to anything that you can do through the user interface or one of our tools. It's a huge selling point for developer partners that want to create applications around the Eclipse ecosystem. We've moved our documentation over to Postman from the wiki, so we're still in progress with the documentation, but Postman is a free tool that allows you to access the collection, which is publicly available. You can search for it today, and not only look at examples and look at the code, but you can actually connect to a device and run API calls from Postman. So it's a great tool for developing around the Building Intelligence API. It supports newer authentications. The Eclipse Designer allows you to browse the data tree and actually get those GET requests by just browsing the tree and copying the paths. Every GET request for an object, and so if you want to see all the points for a VAV box, you can just call the VAV box and it'll give you all the points. Eclipse 1, everything had to be a little bit more defined. So it's more developer friendly in that sense as well. And also performs much faster, which is also helpful for developers. In Eclipse Building Intelligence, we've developed a containerization software that allows you to deploy containers directly onto an Apex without having to use a cloud-based tool. Generation 1 Eclipse, if you recall, used the IoT Edge framework. While IoT Edge has some benefits in that for fleet management of devices, it's quite handy, but did require some overhead of creating an Azure account and setting up a repository in Azure. The containerization framework in Eclipse Building Intelligence for Apex is native in the controller. So you can grab containers off your own repo, off of Docker Hub, and directly put them in the controller with no extra setup, no separate accounts. It all runs locally, and it's available. You can view the containers and the images through the user interface. And then just to give a high-level overview of what the difference in the architecture is between Generation 1 Eclipse, which at the time built on Android, which was the leading platform for kind of IoT devices. Since then, these kind of embedded devices that we're building have leaned more towards Linux. And that's why Eclipse Building Intelligence is built on Linux. Android, we've seen much more just developed or focused on mobile devices. And such. So we've moved to Linux. It's a much more modern overall software architecture. For example, the monolithic or single kind of firmware file we had for Eclipse Generation 1. Let's say there's an update for BACnet and you need to add that feature to your Eclipse controller. With Eclipse 1, you need a new firmware download that would cause the controller to reboot, potentially disrupting operations of whatever's going on, whatever that device is controlling. With Building Intelligence, you have the opportunity to add and upgrade these packages, like just the BACnet connector, with just a modular install of that package, and you don't disrupt the operation of the system. You don't reboot the controller. So this unlocks a lot of development agility, a lot of interoperability that we didn't have with the previous software architecture. Now we're going to move into the section where we want to talk about how we use these features that I mentioned in the software to differentiate the offering with Eclipse Building Intelligence. So to talk more about that, I'll pass it back to Ryan.
Yeah, perfect, Chris. And Chris, you always get me excited about the platform when you get into the nuts and bolts. But it's important that we distill this for the right audience or stakeholder as you engage in business development activities. And so the first one for your end clients, your property owners, your facility managers, and the like. Eclipse Building Intelligence really builds on the connectivity of the Eclipse controller range, providing open technology to deliver customers best-of-breed solutions to fit their needs. For instance, the connector framework allows for integration with a wide variety of systems and services, meaning Distack partners can deliver feature-rich buildings, providing attractive spaces to people to live and work in, all while optimizing operating and maintenance costs. Next, if we look at system integrators, the Eclipse Building Intelligence platform provides tools for faster deployment and execution of projects. A great example is the newly developed Eclipse Designer with its new library management systems and other optimizations, making creating graphics and site databases much more quicker and easier. Next, for master systems integrators and developers, collaboration is key. With the new, faster, developer-friendly version 2 of the API, combined with the Docker containerization technology now available with the recently released Eclipse Apex controller, the data is available through a host of open protocols and open source methods, allowing for advanced services to be provided on real building usage. And so what's the overall impact? Well, Distack partners can now provide their clients with optimized buildings with human-centric outcomes for the building occupants. Building owners, operators, and facility managers can now monitor their portfolios with quality insights gathered from building management and associated systems to ensure the comfort, safety, and value for their building users. And so another aspect of what Chris gets me excited about is really our roadmap. So I'll turn it back to Chris to talk a bit about our development plan around ECLYPSE Building Intelligence.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, so this is just the beginning for ECLYPSE Building Intelligence. So right now we've released ECLYPSE Building Intelligence on the Apex. We have the new connectors, we have the containers and the new containerization framework. MQTT is a brand new connector that's not available on any other version of any other ECLYPSE controller, and the new API. So we'll talk about what the impact is for this release, but the focus is really on that IT IoT hub between your building systems and your service providers. Our next phase is to move more into the core of our product line. So adding in first for plant room type applications, the S1000, the M-Bus for our European market especially, and then the Horizon. The Horizon will be one of the next controllers to run the building intelligence framework, which will increase the performance and allow it to connect to both ECLYPSE One and ECLYPSE Building Intelligence devices. And then moving on from that, we want to unroll this to the full ECLYPSE line. So every ECLYPSE controller will support this building intelligence platform, and we'll add subnet devices along the way, so we can do our terminal equipment room control applications. We need our sensors to be supported, so that phase will come after that. And then once we have our full product line supported, all of the controllers running building intelligence, that's when we can add some more supervisory functions and move on to the PC and cloud based platforms. That doesn't mean along the way that we're not going to have efficiency tools, UI improvements. We'll have things that fit into these other buckets, the connectivity buckets, the supervise bucket, as we add more controllers per se. But the focus is really to go from the Apex to the full ECLYPSE line and all our sensors, and then move into PC and cloud and supervision. To talk a little bit more about what we have today with the ECLYPSE Apex and Building Intelligence, I'll pass it back to Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I like this picture that we see right here. Really, this platform, this ECLYPSE Apex controller, for instance, really acts as that bridge or hub between our system integrator, digital partner, OEM type customer, and the actual property owners, the tenants or occupants, and even specifiers. And so let's talk a bit about versatility at its best. So where does ECLYPSE Building Intelligence solve problems today? You don't have to choose between typical BMS technologies or IT or IoT technologies. You can actually have them both. ECLYPSE Building Intelligence and the ECLYPSE controller range allow solutions to be deployed using this type of productivity tools already enjoyed by our system integrator partners, or your own developments, or even those of our digital partner network and developers that are leveraging the Distech controls IT IoT openness, or more importantly, a mix of all of the above. So resulting in smart building, making best use of available technologies, both on-premise and in the cloud, right? So truly versatile, versatility at its best, game-changing in my opinion. So with the technology already in place for several years via our ECLYPSE controller range, the IoT edge provided by the ECLYPSE Apex and the efficiency, openness, and connectivity that Chris has shown you here today with ECLYPSE Building Intelligence, you can now truly consume, classify, relativize, and aggregate your data in your own way. This, again, is truly an absolute game changer. As we continue to develop and utilize a range of technologies for providing enhanced comfort features through the ECLYPSE Sky ecosystem, service integration via the ECLYPSE API, and even connected services integration through the Microsoft IoT Hub, plus further embedded services via the ECLYPSE Apex and the ability to share data with the cloud. With ECLYPSE Building Intelligence, these technologies are integrated and visualized, allowing our partners to deploy true smart building solutions, which are ready for the next generation of building technologies. Stay tuned as these integrations are explored in webinars number 4 and 5 to come. And so without any further ado, I'd like to pass it back to Chris to discuss next steps as it pertains to ECLYPSE Building Intelligence Platform.
Thank you, Ryan. So overall, we really want everyone to familiarize yourself with our new solution. And that's because today, what we offer, what Ryan talked about with the ECLYPSE Apex and Building Intelligence fits a certain market need. It's a tool in the toolbox. Tomorrow, every ECLYPSE controller will be ECLYPSE Building Intelligence. So your experience connecting to any ECLYPSE device, whether it be an Apex or an ECLYPSE will be the ECLYPSE Building Intelligence experience. So prepare yourself by getting familiar with the product now. That includes attending these webinars. So thank you everyone for attending. Our documentation portal, we have Building Intelligence user guide documented. Webinars and PowerPoints will be published as they get presented. Obviously, we have resources on our website, product web pages, videos. The wiki will continue to get updated. The Postman documentation will continue to be updated. The learning portal will have 3 trainings that'll be loaded on the learning portal. That learning portal that will follow these first couple webinars, introduction, and then getting started, and then more deep dives into some of the connectors. So keep an eye on all of our typical resources. And then for product, we have 2 versions of the ECLYPSE Apex that support Building Intelligence today. The first is the ECLYPSE demo. If you were part of the ECLYPSE Building Intelligence beta, you're familiar with that product. It's priced lower at a net price in order to be a development tool. So we want it to something you can get your hands on. Feel free to have have it in your office to build projects on ahead of ordering product for the actual job. As we don't have a PC-based workbench, we understand that there's a need to have those have one of those devices in the office, and that's what the demo is for. And it will always have a license that's fully flexible that will be renewed annually, so that way you can test any application regardless of the size. And then the other product, the commercial use product, is the ECLYPSE Building Intelligence First Edition. So it's the same software that's in the demo, but it's designed and priced to be put into the marketplace for those places that the ECLYPSE Apex and Building Intelligence solve market problems. So the nice thing about the First Edition version is that the First Edition license has no license limitations and will not have license limitations. So as we unlock some more supervisory functions, and we'll have some licensing that'll be related to those management of buildings, the First Edition Apex will have no license limitations. It's kind of your early access and our kind of gift to you as early adopters of the solution. So we've just completed the first session. The next session is going to be more technically focused on getting started. Again, it's not high level technical, but it'll, for those of you who haven't had the opportunity to experience an Apex controller with Building Intelligence, it's a good way to kind of get a preview of what the user interface looks like and how to configure some basic settings and connectors. The session after that will be more about how you build user interface. So how to use the new dashboard tool that we mentioned, how to use the designer, and how to make those two things work seamlessly together. The next session will be more focused on developer tools. So the new API, MQTT connector, things more focused, again, a little more technical. And then moving to the last session, definitely some technical, but also some business outcomes from working with digital partners and how the ECLYPSE Building Intelligence platform has enabled us to achieve some really neat integrations and capabilities in markets that we couldn't with previous versions of our product.